It's was not the prettiest of football games. That was one of the football games of all time. But hey, these are a lot more fun after a win. So I'm gonna enjoy this one. And of course, it's a win over Florida State, which always means a little bit more, even when both teams suck ass. So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna enjoy this one. It's been a trying year. Glad that the seniors are get to go off with a win at home. Um, and yeah, man, I mean, it was you did enough, did just enough to win this football game, and offensively, you generated enough offense to keep the ball. You won time of possession. You lost the yardage battle, but it's kind of a little misleading because a lot of FSU's yardage kind of came towards the back end of that game in Florida in the fourth quarter. But I thought Cade managed the game well. No turnovers. He didn't make any crazy decisions, terrible decisions. Wasn't a banner day running the football by any means, but you know your receivers made plays. There was enough offense that you were able to put some drives together, and you get out of there with a win. Obviously Florida State certainly was not very interested in winning this football game either. When you look at kind of some of the plays that they didn't make, but hey, this team deserves a little bit of luck to swing their way with how bad some of the games previous have been. So um, we'll certainly take this result. I felt like Clemson would win this football game, but this wasn't quite how I imagined them doing it. But we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I was certainly concerned heading into this football game for the Clemson Tigers. I didn't feel I ultimately picked them in our preview show. I didn't feel great about the pick, um, but I rolled the dice with the Tigers one more time, and they rewarded us with a win, Jordan. And again, not a pretty game, not a massively productive game when it comes to the offensive numbers. We'll get into those here in a little bit. But you did just enough to win tonight. And that's what's important. You finally get the monkey off your back. That was the 3-game losing streak at home. You get the monkey off your back that was not winning a Power 4 game in your home stadium in over a calendar year. So for the season of setting records for all the wrong reasons, you set a couple straight tonight. And like you mentioned, Florida State's kind of one of those teams, much like South Carolina, that regardless of the season that you're having, it's always nice to beat those guys. It's always nice to beat them. It's always nice to beat South Carolina. Those are kind of two teams that you really like to beat in any given season. So the Tigers get it done tonight. Shout out to Cade Klubnik for gutting out another game. I think Garrett Riley might want his leg to truly fall off. I don't know. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. But we got 46 people in the live chat right now. So before we dive into this game tonight, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Me and Jordan do an all-in show every Tuesday, 8 p.m. So come check it out right here on the channel, Clemson at the Voice of College Football. We also do these live post-game reactions to each and every game. And we also just got off of a live stream. We did a watch-along with all of our channel members. So if you want to watch games with us and do watch-alongs, those kind of things, if that sounds like something you're interested in, hit that join button right below the video. Become a channel member. Support the channel on a monthly basis. And get access to that bonus content. And you guys are greatly appreciated. Shout out to all of our channel members for being there. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you coming to hang out with us and watch the game. But Jordan, let's go ahead and dive into this game. It was kind of interesting. Is that the word to describe this game? It was kind of a weird game.
Yeah.
Out right out of the gate, going a very long, I think a 13-plus play
13
drive,
plays.
13 plays, 75 yards, something like that. Marches right down the field and scores a touchdown, and then proceeds to go 3 straight 3-and-outs, I believe, after that. What was your kind of take on Clemson's offense in the first half? What did you see? What was their success predicated on, and where was some of their kind of misses in that first half?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the success Clemson had, I felt like, I mean, they didn't have a ton of success, doing anything between the tackles. I
Yeah.
kind of had a feeling that would be the case. I mean, that Florida State does have some good defensive tackles, um, and I didn't expect them to really be that successful. I think I think they broke a couple of runs. Adam Randall and Gideon Davidson. We got to see a good mix of both of them in the run game. But I thought what Clemson did best was getting the ball out to the perimeter. I think that was clear. Whether it was with Antonio Williams or getting Cade moving in the pocket at least a little bit. They're just some things to kind of make Florida State. One thing I did talk about in the pregame, I don't think their linebackers are very good, and I think Clemson saw that, and they attacked them. I felt like they could have done more, quite honestly, in terms of that respect. You didn't really use Adam Randall out of the backfield, get him any favorable matchups. That was kind of disappointing. I was hoping that would have been something they worked on during the week, especially considering the fact that Florida State has shown some weaknesses in that facet. But I think overall, I think it was it was a decently called game, and offensively, you executed well enough. So I think it was a competent game plan. I thought they moved the football. But I felt like there was opportunities for more if they had done things a little bit differently. But you go into the half. I mean, that was one thing that I think this team did well today, especially in that first half. It was complementary football. Getting off the field, and getting that big stop on fourth down. I felt like that was kind of the biggest swing in momentum, and kind of determined the rest of this game in terms of how it would play out, with the fourth down stop, and then you hit the big play to Antonio Williams to go up, three scores. I felt like that was kind of a game changer there. I'm sorry that the play to Antonio Williams put you up 15-0, so two
15.
scores, and then
Yeah.
you kicked the field goal. So not three scores yet, but I feel like that was when you got some separation in the game. The complexion of the game started to look a little bit different. So I think I was mostly pleased with the offensive game plan in that first half. I think we'll talk about the second half, but you certainly did enough to build a cushion, that you were able to ride for the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the offense did, fairly well in that first half. They bogged down. Like I said, they went, three straight 3-and-outs there. And, it felt like the game moved very quickly. There wasn't a lot of stoppages in this game. A lot of completions, a lot of running of the clock. So the game kind of had a faster pace to it. It seemed like for me just watching it with the clock. But, overall, the offense got enough done, right? They picked their spots. They went on a few drives in that first half. That big catch by Antonio Williams in the end zone. Cade kind of stepped aside and avoided some pressure there, and still found Antonio Williams in the center of the end zone there. Great job by Cade, just avoiding that pressure and getting the ball off. And then great catch by Antonio Williams there as well. So that was very good there. And then drive back down, get a field goal, and make it 18-0. It seemed like what the score was going to be heading into halftime. Now let's go ahead and flip to the other side of the ball, because ultimately it did not end up being 18-0 entering halftime, because the defense subsequently, we kicked the ball off to Florida State after the field goal, and they marched right down the field and put it in the end zone, and it's 7-18 headed into halftime. Jordan, your thoughts on the defense in the first half? They put up a goose egg for the most part until that last drive, but they had some help from some Florida State wide receivers within that first half as well.
Yeah, I mean, Definitely. I mean, largely, I think Clemson's defense played better than they did last week.
Absolutely.
In that first half, but they certainly deserve to look worse statistically than they ultimately did. They were the beneficiary of some pretty bad Florida State drops. They schemed up. That fourth down was that also a fourth down on that drop, that play action that they dropped. I need to go back and watch that play, but they dropped a couple of
They dropped. Yeah,
potential
that
big
was the
plays.
fourth down play that they dropped. Yeah,
Yeah,
wide open guy on fourth down, and he just dropped it.
Just a bust. I have to go back and watch and see like what exactly happened there, but it would. I will say it wasn't as like the coverage busts weren't as egregious as they were against Duke last week in
Or as
terms
often.
of
yeah,
like Florida State offensively, they did things to manipulate you and create those coverage busts. I mean, you still got to play your assignment, but it wasn't nearly as bad as guy flat out just not knowing the call, and your corner going rogue on cover two, and your safety is supposed to be over the top with help, like those type of things, or you're letting the tight end leak out in a game on the line situation that Duke is going down to drive to tie the game, and you give up the tight end wide open down the seam. Nobody has eyes on him. Like we didn't see those level of miscues today.
right.
So minor improvements there. And I thought they did a good job in the run game. Listen, Florida State, statistically, they averaged over 240 rushing yards a game heading into this football game. And you held them to 110 on 26 carries, just a little over 4 yards per carry. Against a team that runs the ball as well as Florida State, you'll take that every day. And it helped going up, getting off to a fast start, because it didn't allow them to get to their run game as much as they probably wanted to. So kudos to the defense there, and I think they largely did a good job containing Thomas Castellanos. He had a couple of scrambles on the day, but they did a good job of kind of keeping him in the pocket for the most part and not letting him burn them too bad with his legs. And you also got it helped on Florida State's first drive. You get that turnover. I don't know, was that their first drive or was that their second? I can't remember. They go down the field and they have a fumble. They get in the red zone and they have the fumble on the exchange. But again, listen, the way that Clemson season has gone, they kind of deserve to be on the right end of some of those breaks too. Largely better performance from the defense. Brent Venables was in the building tonight, so I wonder if he had some juju going on. And Clemson did light up the Clemson paw before the game like they were doing a seance. So maybe we summoned we summoned some bad spirits, some devil magic. I don't know.
We did a cleansing. We were burning our sage and doing all the craziness, trying to rid Death Valley of the
evil that has possessed it. Yeah,
the evil that has plagued us for over a year there now.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, I mean, I think overall the defense, was obviously better than last week. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, it's not hard to play better than you played last week because you played about as bad as possible, last week. But they did play better. They picked their spots. They got off the field on third down today. They made their plays. 6 sacks, 9 tackles for loss today. They definitely had an improvement. The big thing is the run game. You mentioned Florida State averaging 240 plus yards a game this season on the ground, and you hold them to just over 100 yards rushing tonight. And yes, some of Florida State's rushing numbers are slightly inflated because they've had some big games rushing the football, but the fact still remains. A team that's averaging over 240 yards rushing, you hold to 110 yards rushing. That's a big win, especially for this defense that doesn't do a great job, especially on the perimeter. And they did better tonight. I mentioned the 6 sacks. One of the things they did well was contain Castellanos. Didn't allow him to do a lot of his improv, his creation, his, kind of when the play breaks down, doing, some of the things that he's very comfortable and very good at doing. They did not allow him to do tonight. And that's a credit to the defense. That's a credit to Tom Allen for the game that he called. It wasn't perfect. They got some huge breaks in that first half. Like, let's be completely honest. There was quite a few drops there that would have went for big yardage and would have converted, and it sustained several drives during that first half. You mentioned the 4th down one. There were a couple other ones, but ultimately the defense did enough. They bowed up when they needed to, and they got the job done. And, as much flack, deservedly so, that we've given this team this season and this coaching staff, it's nice to just see them go out there and finally get a win, especially at home, especially in Death Valley, for the seniors to get a Power 4 win finally. Although it wasn't a beautiful game and it wasn't, your best effort by any means or the best that you've looked, but it was enough to get the job done. And at this point, we'll take any win we can get because we're inching ever so close to being 500 again, Jordan. We just need another win.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Before we lose one, we need another one.
Get there.
Yeah.
Can we finish the season dead even on 500? We'll see. Maybe that's the goal.
We shall see. But that first half, disappointing to give up that touchdown drive at the end of the half.
The thing about that touchdown, like, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you did as well. Like, when Florida State got the ball back, they hit a couple plays, and I was like, here we go. I was like, they're going to go ahead and give up a touchdown right before halftime, and then Florida State's going to get the ball coming right out of half, and they're going to have all the momentum. And that's exactly what happened. Ultimately, it didn't, affect us in the way that in a way like we lost the game or anything like that. But it's disappointing when you got a team on the ropes like that. It's 18-0. All you got to do is make a stand at the end of the half, and you go in up 18. You feel a whole lot better. But of course, that defense is going to give up a big drive, and probably Florida State's biggest drive of the night was that drive to close out the first half and get that touchdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, but like you said, like you just kind of knew, because that's what this defense has done throughout the season. They have not been very clutch when you needed them for most of the year in terms of, getting opportune stops. This defense has gotten stops, but when you would really like one in this moment, it never felt like they were going to be able to get it. But didn't kill you. You give up a touchdown, you give up that touchdown, Florida State, and we can kind of just take that to transition to the second half. Florida State with the football to start the second half, and they go down the field. But was that the drive where they had offensive pass interference? I know they missed the field. They missed the field goal. Hold on, I can just pull up the chart. Okay. So that was the sack, the AV on Terrell sack.
Yes,
that put them in a tougher field goal range. What got them in that 3rd and 8? Yeah. Corey Gibson made a big pass breakup on that game. Speaking of which, I think he had a really good game today. Corey Gibson, nice to see him, kind of step into a bigger role and play after. And he's gotten more reps throughout the season. And this was certainly his best game today, just in coverage. So, I mean, he's a guy that in the future, he's going to be one of your guys. I think. I mean, coming out of high school, I was extremely high on him, and obviously he kind of started his career behind the eight ball because he was coming off a torn ACL, but thought he looked good today. So yeah, but getting that stop on that first Florida State drive at the beginning of the second half, missing that, obviously forcing them to a field goal, and they kick it wide right. That's the kind of thing you need. I mean, so you need it in that moment, and I think that was the moment. I think that I think Clemson felt like they had control of the game, and they could go ahead and close this one out. And again, it wasn't pretty, but they kept chipping away, and they kind of rode it. They kind of rode to the finish line in a way. They again wasn't anything pretty, anything special, but you get 2 field goals in that second half, and that was enough. That was enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of all you ended up needing, right? And you come out, you put some drives together, you get the field goals, you're continuing to add points to the lead. You win the third quarter 3-0, right? Thanks to the missed field goal by Florida State. You tack on another field goal in the fourth quarter, and ultimately it's enough to win the game. Your defense came up big with that interception at the end because Clemson refuses to run out the clock. They cannot close out a game to save their lives on offense when they have an opportunity. That's one of the frustrating things about this team. One of the many frustrating things, but and we could talk about the second half, and this kind of leads me into it because why is Cade Klubnik running the ball on that play? Like we're trying to close out a game, right? There's like 3+ minutes left in the game. We're trying to close it out. We're trying to get a first down. You run your running back twice, and then you run your quarterback whose leg has fallen off, and he can barely move. I'm just confused by stuff like that. I'm confused by a lot of the runs, particularly in the second half for Cade Klubnik when you knew he had already re-aggravated that ankle yet again on one of those drives in the second half, and you're continuing to run him. I don't understand it. I don't. You got 2 really good running backs that you've started rotating in Adam Randall and Gideon Davison. Why aren't one of those guys getting a carry? Or to your point, when we were watching it live, why is Hammerhead not in there? That dude wants to run through a brick wall every day. One of the probably the most physical back that you have on the roster. And you don't give him a crack at it? I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get why you run your quarterback there. Cade Klubnik took a lot of brutal hits tonight. And shout out to him. I mean, he's a warrior. He's gutting it out there. I'm sure he's going to feel like crap when he wakes up in the morning. He's going to be in treatment all week trying to get that ankle right again so he can play on a short week against Louisville. But just some of that stuff is kind of baffling to me. Not that it was a terribly called game or anything like that. It's just certain decisions like that. It just makes you wonder, like, what is going through Garrett Riley's mind when he calls a play like that. But he's going to continue to do it. So,
yeah, I mean, it was kind of baffling, some of those decisions, and you're like, I mean, listen, John, shout out to John Sarian in the chat. But while we were watching the game live, I mean, he asked, like, did we see any 21 personnel today? And I was like, I don't think we have. I mean, listen, when you're trying to close out a game, and this is something that just consistently for Clemson, it's always having 2 backs on the field is always more often than not led to good results when they, running the football. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me why you haven't at any point, gone back to that or tried anything. But it's kind of frustrating when you have 2 backs that are capable. Honestly, 3 that are capable. In in a close game, and well, not a close game, but when you're in a situation where you're trying to run out the clock, and you're not, you choose to run your hobbled quarterback, and it
Yeah,
doesn't really
and
make sense. It's like you're calling the game as if as if everything is on paper, and it's like none of the players aren't dealing with any type of injury or anything like that. It's just I'm going to call the game like call the play like I see it. The defense is lined up the way I want, so I'm gonna run this play and not really thinking about anything else.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. It was that was confusing. But again,
yeah,
I don't think it was a terribly called game. I thought, and I think Cade did a good job of managing, managing the game. The receivers for the most part made plays. Antonio Williams obviously made probably the biggest play offensively. Um, but you saw other guys involved. You saw T.J. Moore involved in some screens. Cole Turner caught a nice, even had a catch. Tristan Smith got some good. He made a couple of nice catches on the day. Olsen, Pat Henry. So I mean, it was a good mix of things. Cade was efficient. He was accurate. I didn't have too many complaints. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. So in a game like this where neither team is scoring a whole bunch, like the quarterback that doesn't make the mistakes is probably the one that's going to win the football game, and that was Cade today.
yeah. That was Cade tonight. And Big Mick makes a good point. Says those are read options. I understand that they're read options.
Some of
Um,
them, not all of them.
I understand that. Yeah, some of those are read options, and I get that. But in that situation, I just don't like it. It's third and short, and you're trying to get a first down. I just think relying on the traditional run game in that situation is going to yield better results far more often than trying to do a read option with your hobbled quarterback. Just my opinion. But we had several guys step up tonight. Several guys played well, and it was a win, right? It's a win in the Valley, something that we haven't seen too often this season, and the team improves to 4-5 on the season, and you get another opportunity next week to try to even that up at 5-5 on the season. So we'll see what the Clemson Tigers can do going forward. But nice way to close out the fourth quarter with a field goal, and then ultimately, after those frustrations that we had with them trying to run out the clock, the defense makes a big stand, gets a turnover, and kind of seals the game. So shout out to them. Shout out to that secondary for shutting the game out like that after an abysmal performance last week. It's nice to see them guys step up and make a lot more plays than they did last week. So it's clear that this team, the one good thing you can say, it's clear that this team hasn't checked out, right? They're still fighting to win. They're still playing, for each other or for their coaches or whatever reason they're playing for the pride. But it's clear this team hasn't checked out. They played hard. They fought to the end, and they did enough to beat Florida State tonight, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
This team is not magically better. They're not, they haven't righted most of the wrongs that have been going on for majority of the season. But they fought hard and they won the game. And it's nice to see.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they looked engaged today. I mean, it was
Yeah.
there looked like there was responsiveness on the sidelines. There wasn't as much, guys like not taking to the coaching and just kind of, they made a mistake, or there was a lot more. They were allowed to be coached. They allowed themselves to be coached, type of thing. I didn't see too many guys moping or getting upset after a bad play or whatever. I mean, all the things you hope to see, and normally we wouldn't even comment on things like that about a Dabo Sweeney team because you just
Right.
expect them to be
Yeah.
be fully engaged. But it was clear, with senior day, with senior day, and obviously you're playing a rival. it's clear they treated it like one. It wasn't the best played game by any means. Neither team played particularly well, but I think you played with effort. You saw guys flying to the football. It was a lot cleaner of a cleaner is not the right word. A lot more spirited of an effort than we've seen at times this season, especially on defense. I mean,
Yeah.
I saw the linebackers were flying to the ball. It was Kobe McLeod is out here making outstretched, stretching his arm to make pass breakups. That was kind of unfortunate that it got tipped right to the receiver, but he's quietly had
it was a good play though. I mean, that was a good play.
Yeah, Kobe McLeod has quietly been pretty good the last few weeks, and he got himself a sack today. So I'm pleased. I thought this was one of the better games the linebackers played, and just guys being more sideline to sideline, just playing better. I mean, Wade Woodaz had a couple of nice plays in space, nice tackles in space. That was good to see. Sammy Brown.
Khalil Barnes had a nice
Khalil
one.
Barnes, yeah,
he had a perimeter.
He had a
Brown
play
came and cleaned it up. That was a third down play where they were really close to making a first down. That one comes to mind for me, and that was just an effort play, right? It was a really good open field tackle by Khalil Barnes. Mm-hmm. Sammy Brown comes and cleans it up, makes sure that he doesn't get past the yard marker, and ultimately ends up in a punt. So definitely flying around a lot more effort, a lot more, playing like you got some pride about you.
And on the, I think defensively, especially in the second half when Florida State was in desperation mode, I think the defense did a really good job with a lot of the misdirection stuff they were doing. They didn't break it too many of those for big gains. I was worried about Mekhi Danzy and Jalen Lucas getting really active in those type of plays, and they didn't for the most part. And on those plays, I thought you just did a good job of holding the perimeter and not letting them get outside of you. Guys were there in their run fits. I thought the safeties, obviously, I think they played a better game in that department. Guys just filling their lanes better. They played like a defense, like a competent defense, especially in that second half. First half, they were fortunate on some things, but second half, I think a lot of it was just they just flat out executed better than we've seen them execute for a lot of the season. And you got pressure, obviously, with anytime you get 6 sacks, obviously you got pressure, but it was just a good day for the front seven, and I thought on the back end you had some good standouts. I already mentioned Corian Gibson. I mean, I think this is the best game he's played so far. Just multiple nice plays in coverage. Didn't see him get out of allow too many catches. I don't know what his stat line ultimately looked like, but had a couple of pass breakups. And that was good to see because he is the future so far. At corner. I think probably the front. You got Terrell and Hampton. Terrell, gone after this year. Hampton will still, will probably still be here next year. And then, somebody's got to step up. Be that second corner. I think if you don't go get somebody from out of the portal, I think Corian Gibson is the guy with the most upside, and I thought he showed it today.
Yeah, absolutely.